A Passion for Mushrooms by Chronological. Chapter 31. All is not well. Dwalin was standing just outside of the privy, keeping guard over Bilbo as he had promised. With an axe in each hand, he was more than ready to deal with 100 attackers or more. If only their enemy was the sort to fight in the open instead of leaving wicked paintings in people's rooms and poisoning canapes. Fortunately, he was not alone. With him were Feely and Keely, as well as Oin, Biffer, Bofer, and Nori. All of them bristled like porcupines with visible weaponry, and not even devious, quick-thinking Nori had yet realized that weapons would do no good. Bilbo managed to smile for his friends. "How do you feel?" Feely demanded the moment Bilbo appeared in the door. Bofer shoved the brains away. "Give him some air. It's obvious he feels horrible. But will you be all right, Bilbo?" Yes, the hobbit said quickly, stalling further inquiries regarding his health. "I simply needed a few minutes to gather myself." "It's been 2 hours, Nori said with his usual diplomacy. Bilbo scowled at him. "Well, when you are poisoned, I'll make sure to set a clock, and we shall see how well you do." "If any one of us had been poisoned," Oin said gruffly, "he would not be standing right now. Do you need anything, lad? Some poultice your people use to ease the suffering, perhaps?" "Ginger tea would be very welcome," Bilbo said, "but it can wait." "Yes," Keely agreed. "We should make for Erebor at once." "We are not going to the mountain," Bilbo said firmly. Wallen scowled. "Yes, we are. The man who poisoned you hasn't been found. Until he is, and we know exactly how many men of Dale are involved in the plot, you're safest in the mountain. Thorin is going to bar everyone but the dwarves from Erebor until we know the danger is past." Bilbo sighed. "Of course he is. Nevertheless, I'm going back to the party. If you lot want to help, you're more than welcome to join me." "It isn't a party any longer, Bilbo," Bofer said. "For a while it was a shouting match between Thorin and Bard, but Gandalf proved out the loudest voice, and now I don't know what it is." "No one has left yet, have they?" Bilbo asked sharply. "Thorin and Doran both got a good look at the poisoner's face," Feely said gently, "but they cannot find him among the servants. We think he must have snuck away before the exits were closed. That is not to say that he will not be found." Humming thoughtfully, Bilbo marched back into the main hall. If some people had gone in search of the poisoner, most still remained, staring at the spectacle of the two kings. Bard and Thorin were glaring balefully at one another, while Gandalf stood between them like a wall separating warring armies. Perhaps the citizenry found the sight entertaining. Perhaps they found it horrifying. Bilbo had no doubts that his death might have caused an irreparable rift between Erebor and Dale. Thorin was not one to accept loss or forgive it. Blameless though Bard might be, the king under the mountain would need a target for his rage, or he would lash out at anyone who looked like one. The hobbit was not given long to take in the sight of the room. Just as he spotted Thorin on the dais, so too the king saw him and crossed the room in a swift, masterful stride to gather Bilbo in his arms. "Abranime," Thorin murmured, pressing a kiss to Bilbo's forehead. "Givisha," he whispered, kissing the burglar's cheek. "Sanos Jung." He continued, trying to kiss the hobbit's lips, but Bilbo was forced to turn his face away, taking the kiss on his other cheek. "You were done well." "Perfectly well," Bilbo said, putting a steady hand on Thorin's beard. The king leaned into the touch, kissing Bilbo's palm, but his soft eyes held the question. "I did tell you that no mushrooms are poisonous to hobbits, but I have not yet had a proper chance to clean my mouth. It would be tragedy indeed if you were to taste such poisons on my lips." Thorin's gaze grew speculative. After a moment he said, "Poison is not what you fear I will taste." That was all the warning Bilbo had before the king was kissing him fully, opening his mouth and demanding access. The hobbit did not try to resist. He was rather finished with resisting the walking temptation that was Thorin Oakenshield. However, he was a little surprised that Thorin did not pull away. Bilbo had done his best with water, but he knew that there was still bile on his breath. No hobbit could tolerate such a taste for long. Yet Thorin didn't seem to be so much enduring as devouring, and Bilbo gave himself over wholly to the embrace. "We will go home," Thorin announced regally when he finally pulled away. "You need rest." Sighing, Bilbo almost agreed. Being put to bed by Thorin would likely be very pleasant. They had not quite managed to make it to a bed the night before, and he thought he might enjoy snuggling close while someone brought him tea. Dozing a little in the afternoon was always agreeable, and doing so at Thorin's side would be happiness itself. Unfortunately, over Thorin's shoulder he could see Bard about to faint with relief that Bilbo had survived. It was Doran's day, and there were too many plans for them to sleep just yet. Others had made too many plans for a hobbit who cared about his friends to ignore. In a little while, my love. First, may I ask if you found the body of my poisoner? Thorin's eyes widened in surprise.
We have only just begun looking for one,
He said slowly.
Gandalf suggested that whatever conspiracy lay behind his hire might not want him to speak.
The wizard had the temerity to wink. Now that Bilbo was recovered, it was clear that the old meddler was going to leave matters for him to solve. As always, Bilbo sighed. One would expect a proper wizard could simply magic up a solution to everything with a wave of his staff and a few funny words. Perhaps one day the hobbit might meet a proper wizard. Still, there was a certain comfort in having Gandalf about. Nothing ever seemed to go too wrong while he was with them. Now that it appeared Bilbo and Thorin had finished their greeting, the other king present came forward to speak with the newly recovered hobbit.
It gladdens my heart to see you well, Master Baggins,
Bard said.
Does it?
Thorin asked darkly, moving so that his body shielded Bilbo from the former bargeman. Rolling his eyes, Bilbo tried to push the dwarf to one side, but as always, it was like trying to push a boulder.
Yes,
Bard said plainly.
it does.
Turning his face back to Bilbo, he continued.
Please allow me to beg forgiveness. The last thing I ever wanted was for you to come to harm within my halls.
I know, Bilbo said. At exactly the same time, Thorin growled,
Then why is it that you do not give up his poisoner to my justice?
Because I do not have his poisoner. Bard's voice had an exasperated quality that Bilbo recognized as a common side effect of arguing with the king under the mountain.
You have looked upon the faces of all my household staff, of all who might even wear the livery of my hall legitimately,
and you recognized none of them.
Then give me the name of the one who was not here,
Thorin bellowed.
There is no name,
Bard shouted.
No one was missing. Is it so impossible for you to believe that someone might have stolen a suit of clothes from my laundry?
Perhaps not, Thorin said harshly, for a man might be a thief. Yet that idea does not preclude the thought that men might also conspire against our mountain and our king. You have always been jealous of the wealth of Erebor.
I will punish a poisoner, make no mistake,
Thorin agreed.
If you do not present me with the man whose face I saw marred, then the man who placed the poison in his hands will do well enough.
Oh, Bilbo said, as if the idea had only just occurred to him.
But that is quite easy to determine.
Just like that, he had the attention of the room.
My burglar?
Thorin asked. As he turned to look at Bilbo, the anger faded from his face like a shadow fading from the sun.
Noro has that powder.
The culinary guildmaster looked quite surprised to be named in such august and dangerous company, but he came forward at once. Now that the situation was less urgent, Bilbo took a moment to admire her silver braids. They were accentuated with beads of topaz and citron to match the yellowed silk dress she wore with great dignity. Her cauldron pin was displayed prominently on her shoulder, and she seemed quite ready for action, though unsure of how she could help. Master Baggins?
You have that powder that turns red, don't you?
Yes, she said slowly, clearly not understanding his intentions. I do. Turning back to Thorin, Bilbo explained in a voice loud enough for all to hear.
Though any master of the Culinary Guild can tell the difference between poisonous and good mushrooms on sight, there is always the chance of accidentally touching them when gathering ingredients. Cleaning such poisons entirely away can be very difficult. One must powder one's hands in baking soda and then wash them in vinegar to really be rid of the poison. It's quite a pleasant sensation, actually, Thorin. You ought to try it with me sometime, just for fun, without touching poison. I would prefer you not to touch poisons of any kind, please. I will do my best,
the king smiled.
So long as you promise to do the same in future. Your Culinary Guild has a way to detect traces of poison if it has not been washed away in this manner. Darrow has a powder that will turn red when it touches the skin of the poisoner. Unless they are a member of our guild and know the trick to truly cleaning their hands, I expect all will be revealed. Is that so?
Thorin demanded, turning to Darrow. Looking from Bilbo to the king, she nodded. Master Baggins speaks the truth, my liege.
Then perhaps you should go and fetch it,
he growled, looking nearly murderous that no one had mentioned such a powder earlier. I will bear you hence, Theodwyn said, stepping forward. She looked eager to be doing something to help, and Bilbo felt a small pang in his heart.
All of his friends had clearly been very worried for his health.
On Sunbash's back, we can make it to Edible and return in the space of half an hour.
Dalrymple nodded.
Thank you, Lady of Rohan. It would appear that haste is needed.
Casting a look to Bilbo that clearly suggested he was in her debt for making a ride on horseback, Master Darrow went at once with Theodwyn. Sighing, Bilbo turned back to Thorin. So, we shall know soon enough if the one who actually gave me the poison was the only person to touch the bad mushrooms, though of course it cannot entirely clear anyone else of charges of conspiracy. Still, we might yet get lucky. Thorin smiled. I have already been more fortunate than I merit, to have a love hardy enough to survive what would easily fell a dwarf. Ah, Bilbo said, blushing a little. That is no credit to me. You know I am much weaker than a dwarf in a dozen other ways. You need only greet me with a headbutt as your sister once did if you want proof. I want no such proof, Thorin said, brushing a lock of hair away from Bilbo's eyes. I want only you, exactly as you are. Naturally, Bilbo had to kiss him again after that. If Thorin didn't mind the awful aftertaste in his mouth, the hobbit certainly wasn't going to let anything else stop him.